Hi, welcome to Radio 4's Consumer Programme today. More than 1 million people are using weight loss jabs in the UK. What will that mean for traditional slimming clubs? Fraud aimed at learner drivers has more than doubled in the past year as people try and beat the queues for tests.
Because I had no doubts, because I saw a lot of screenshots of the booking tests for other clients and also messenger chats from other clients, tests being booked, saying thanks. So when I saw all that, that attracted me, but it was a scam basically.
We'll have advice on what to watch out for. And rural bus services are on the decline, steeply on the decline in some places.
It tends to be a lot of work going within our village that people could easily fill from the other surrounding towns if they could just get to us.
What are the bus services like where you live? Please get in touch, email us, you and yours at bbc.co.uk or send a text to 84844. But first, we've been contacted by couples who have paid for wedding photographs and were left waiting for them months after the event. They paid around £500 to a business called Blackout Media Weddings. It promised to travel anywhere in the UK and provide full-day wedding shoots. Jordan Bradley got in touch with us about it. He lives in Ebervale in South Wales with his wife Abby. They hired Blackout Media Weddings when they got married in May. They've been planning their wedding for 2 years. Jordan's on the line. Jordan, hi, tell us then, what made you choose this company in the first place?
Hi there. So we first booked Blackout Media in 2023, and it was on a Facebook advert that got our attention. And then when we clicked the profile, there was loads of reviews, sharing them daily, really positive reviews. And when we messaged him, he was really friendly, really forthcoming, and yeah, we booked from there.
So the man that you messaged was called Adam King. How did you pay him?
Paid a deposit via a bank transfer, and then there was no issues for a while. And then he messaged us asking for the rest of the payment. This was a year even before our wedding, and he was saying, "Oh, there's a discount if you pay now." Should have been a red flag at the time.
Yes.
But yeah, we paid the rest then by another bank transfer.
So what happened on your big day?
So we had no contact for after the second payment. So we messaged him, is everything's okay? And he was like, yes, we've got you booked in, I know the place. Didn't tell us the name of the photographer or any details really. And then on the day, a photographer turned up and didn't know what we wanted. It was very friendly and great, and the photos now that we've finally received after paying him again, yeah, great, but he didn't know what we wanted, so we kind of had to guide him and on the day really.
So it wasn't what you thought you had paid for. So you say that eventually you paid this photographer. In the meantime, you'd expected that you would get the pictures from the company, wouldn't you?
Yeah, when we messaged like 4 or 5 weeks later, just give us a time for him, he was like, "Oh, I'm behind. It's going to be 10 to 12 weeks. We thought, oh, that's quite a long time. And then we thought, oh, give him grace. He said that he'd been in hospital, so we thought, oh, we can't really complain. And then he started to ignore the messages after 10, 12 weeks, and then we found other reviews, Facebook groups about him, other couples who've been effectively scammed, really.
Who never got their pictures at all?
Yeah, I'm sure you might speak to him today, but there's some people who never had a photographer turn up, haven't received a refund. He's blocked a few people.
So that you eventually went to the photographer who turned up on the day. Did you at least get some good pictures from him? Yeah,
so we had to pay 400. Obviously, he hadn't got paid from Adam, so we paid 400 for him to edit them. But he suggested we try and get the money from Adam, which was fair. He didn't want us to double pay, but Adam was pretty much refusing and either not replying or saying he has a backlog, and you just tough luck, really.
So you paid Adam 500 and then you ended up paying the photographer an extra 400, but the photographer insisted that was really the price of editing and preparing them, that he thought you should get your money back from Adam for his work. We found this photographer that came to your wedding, and our reporter Julian Pashkovich managed to speak to him. His name is Taras Shevchenko, and he is a freelance. He told us he came to the UK from Ukraine only a year ago, and he lives in Nottingham. He said that so far he has done 15 weddings for Adam King, but he is owed payment himself, as you said, for 9 of those weddings. Now, Taras said he is paid by Adam King up to £400 per shoot, but that depends on how far he has to travel. And so far, he's been sent all over the UK. Here he is.
It's across all UK, so I take photos in Cardiff, I take photos in Wales, I take photos in Turkey, so everywhere.
And what sort of notice did he give you?
He can write me on Friday, say you free tomorrow.
And did you ever have a contract with Adam?
No, I don't have contract.
So how did you speak to Adam?
I'm just speak with him with Facebook Messenger. Only Facebook Messenger, yeah.
Did he ever give you a telephone number at all?
No.
How much money does he owe you?
£3,100.
When was the last time you spoke to Adam or heard from him?
Oh, he's right to me not this week, previous this week. So he says that he needs 3 weddings. He write me that wedding he wants, that I send him photos, and say that he will be paid me for all my weddings.
So how did you respond?
I just want that he's paying me for my work and forgot about all this situation.
That's Taras Shevchenko talking to Julian Pashkovich. So Jordan, sounds like it's still very much going on, and it sounds like it's not very well organised, to say the least. What would you say you have learned from this whole experience?
At the time when we booked him, the research was the reviews and feedback. So just keep on top. I think once you paid the deposit, I keep checking the company, because you're kind of planning on other things. But just keep on top of it. Check other people's reviews, Trustpilot even. I wish we had done that in hindsight now, but when we originally booked him, he seemed to be on top of things, and then he let it slip over the last 2 years, I think.
So Jordan, did you just check the reviews that he himself had posted? Do you mean you didn't go outside, or do you mean you just should have kept checking?
Yeah, I should have kept checking, I think, and especially like the red flags of like a discount price and.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reviews he was sharing were from other people who was in, but obviously he's the ones he probably approved.
Yeah, I see. So you never went outside his own site to get an appraisal of what he was like?
No, and obviously the only contact details he was given was his Facebook page, which really, for a business, should have a mobile phone number and maybe even an address, but yeah.
Well, Jordan, as you say, there are more than a dozen complaints online about this company, Blackout Media Weddings, some of them dating back a few years. And we have traced and spoke with 4 other couples. In one case, as you say, no photographer turned up, and that does seem to be the case for some people. So we thought we'd canvass some expert opinion on wedding photographers, how to book a good one, how not to end up disappointed. Kate Williams is the editor of the magazine Rock and Roll Bride. Kate, what's so much to say here? What are the red flags? When you think about what Jordan and Abby paid, they paid £500 for an all-day shoot. Should that have been a red flag?
Hiya, yeah, I mean, definitely that is a very cheap rate for a wedding photographer. It's a lot of money, but if you think about it, there's only 52 weekends in the year, and if a photographer's working every weekend, that's just over £20,000. That's not a huge business. So it seems like this photographer has charged a very low rate so they could get in lots and lots of bookings and then outsource those jobs, which isn't really a very standard thing that a lot of wedding photographers would do. No,
because you don't imagine, do you, when you're booking someone, that they'll be ringing round a few days before or the night before trying to find a freelance from somewhere to turn up for you?
No, exactly. I mean, your wedding day is such an important day. And most of the vendors you'll be booking, you want to have a bit of a personal relationship with them. You want to feel like they're going to care about your wedding and know what you want and things like that. Jordan was saying, the guy that showed up had no idea the day was what was happening. Most wedding businesses are small businesses, so you'll be working one-on-one with a person. And I don't know if Jordan or these other couples had a contract, but checking the contract to see if the photographer you're talking to is the one that's going to show up is a very important thing to do as well.
Jordan, did you have any kind of a contract?
We did, but reading through it, it was very much to cover his own money.
It's just all about payment, Kat, how much should you expect to pay for an all-day wedding photographer?
I mean, I personally wouldn't recommend working with anyone that's sort of less than 1,400. I'd say 1,500 to 2,000 is probably about the standard in the UK right now.
Now, Kat, Jordan also regrets that he only looked for the reviews on this man's own Facebook site. He never went beyond that. He only did that later when he was let down. So when you are choosing a wedding photographer, what are the checks that you should make?
So I would make sure you're checking across all of their social media, so not just a Facebook page. I mean, anybody can set up a Facebook page and put on some photos they've ripped from Google or fake reviews. So, are they on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? Do they have their own website? Any legitimate business will have all of these platforms, and it will be very consistent across the board. Make sure that they're updating them regularly, because anyone can set up these pages with no.
And what can you do if the wedding photographs never come?
Well, sadly, there isn't really a trade body for the wedding industry, but so just if possible, pay by credit card or PayPal, because you're more likely to get your money back that way. If something goes wrong, I mean, thankfully these stories are very rare. But going to small claims court or citizens' advice potentially. But really, you want to be doing the checks beforehand so you don't have to get to that point.
Jordan, what will you do? Do you think? How did you pay? Did you pay by credit card?
We did, and we missed the year window. We can get it back.
Gosh.
Yeah. But we've reported citizens' advice and obviously contacted the show. It's just about raising awareness now. I think we might have to take the hit because Adam says he refund us in 28 days, and that was almost 3 weeks ago. So I'm not expecting it.
Yeah, I should say we also contacted him, but he hasn't responded to us either. And Kat, just before we leave it, what would you recommend somebody doing if no photographer shows up?
Ask your friends to take lots of pictures. I mean, you really don't want to get to that point. There's nothing, it's the day then. You don't want to be stressing about trying to find a wedding photographer.
No, but everyone has a phone now, don't they? People take some great pictures. You'd get those great candid shots, wouldn't you, hopefully?
I mean, yes, it wouldn't be the same, but you would get some photos that way, yeah.
Jordan, what did you want to say?
Oh, just luckily, we did have quite a few people take pictures, not of the ceremony, but I thought we was going to make an album for blurry mobile pictures, but it was okay.
And it would have been okay?
Well, it's about the day, really.
Yeah.
I tried not to let it affect us, but it's quite worrying at the time.
Oh, well, thanks so much for getting in touch with us. As you say, you wanted to get the message out, and you have. That's Jordan Bradley in Abervale and also Abervale, and also Kat Williams from Rock and Roll Bride. Oprah Winfrey must be one of the most famous slimmers in the world. For years, she was the face of Weight Watchers in America. Here's one of the ads she did for them.
This is the joy for me. I love bread. I love bread. I now just manage it, so I don't deny myself bread. I have bread every day. I have bread every day. That's the genius of this program. I lost 26 pounds, and I have eaten bread every single day.
You can hear that passion for bread, can't you? Anyway, her most recent drastic weight loss is, she says, down to the new weight loss drugs. She stepped back from Weight Watchers and its share price tanked. The company filed for bankruptcy in America in May. It's restructured its business now. It's teamed up with the drug makers that offer the prescriptions, and it offers those services alongside coaching, encouragement. So what does the future hold for weight loss groups here in the UK? The UK company Slimming World is promoting the benefits of staying in your slimming group as you take your weight loss jabs. Nick van der Way lives in Gosport in Hampshire and goes to Slimming World. He's been trying to lose weight for more than 10 years. He's recently started taking Manjaro. Linda Ledbetter worked for Weight Watchers for 18 years before she started her own company. It's called Be Wade Slimming, and it operates 30 in-person meetups across the Northwest, and there are also some online groups. So hi both and welcome both. Linda, tell us then about these groups that you are running, what you charge, what do people get for that?
Okay, so in our face-to-face meetings, they attend the meeting, they get weighed in private, they get the support from the leader, plus also fellow members. We do a meeting topic each week, which is relevance, it's about wellness, it's about weight loss, it's about teaching about nutrition. So, it's a really good vibe in the meeting. That's in the face-to-face meetings, and that's just £5 a week. Now, the online meetings are only £3.50, and they are for anyone in the world, basically, but obviously, predominantly, they are UK members. And they get their own dedicated leader, they've got the accountability of sending their weight each week. They attend a Zoom meeting, where the meeting topic is each week is across the board throughout the B-Way community. So we're talking about the same thing throughout the community every single week, but not the same topic each week, but throughout our meetings. So they're learning something. They're not just getting weighed and going away. And, they're actually learning something about nutrition, about wellness, about mindful eating, about portion sizes, about exercise, everything, the whole package. So they're not just getting weighed and following a plan. They get everything.
Has trade declined at all since the weight loss drugs took off?
I'd like to say no, but it has slightly. But what I have done is sort of I'm one step ahead of the game. I've created my own slimming injection success guide. So that is all the importance of every single nutrient that they should be having. So if I've got several members, I've got many members actually on the slimming injection who they've joined when they want to do B-Weighed alongside doing the injection, knowing that they need fuel, they need to hit the right nutrient goals, because that is so important. I have had members said, "Oh, Linda, I'm leaving your group because I've started doing the Manjaro," and that's when I say, "Look, it's really important. You will have no food noise, you'll have no appetite. You might feel like you don't want to eat, and if you don't eat, you're going to absolutely lose weight at the wrong rate. You won't be giving your body the right nutrients, and it's just not going to make you poorly." Whereas if you do it alongside following our injection success guide, they'll be losing it at the right rate.
Nick, tell us about your efforts to lose weight before you started on Manjaro.
Yeah, so my journey, I slimmed down for my wedding, which was 10 years ago, and that was attending Slimming World, and reached what I wanted to do, fitted in my tux. Then flash forward, to the present day, and I restarted my slimming journey after having putting all that weight back on. And so my journey started 2 years ago. I did a year of attending the slimming group and Slimming World, and then in this year, since January, I decided to engage with Manjaro, the weight loss prescribed injections, and I'm just about to hit kind of my target weight again now.
Give us some ideas then of what you weighed or your size. I'm just trying to get a mental picture of you. When you said you'd slimmed down from what to get in your tux?
So, I think probably more recently I was even heavier than that 10 years ago. So if I look back to, there was a big event that I kind of really saw the photos of me on, and I was over 20 stone, and I'm over 6 foot in height as well. So whilst I was carrying it quite well, yeah, I was a very large man, and having to wear, like double XL shirts and not really being able to fit into anything in a lot of mainstream retailers.
How did it make you feel going about your everyday life, carrying that weight?
That's interesting. I was definitely unfit. It was definitely felt unhealthy. I'm a dad, so I was worried about the example that I might be setting to my kids and being around for them. And also, I was large, and yes, I was self-conscious about it. Whereas now I've nearly lost 6 stone to get where I am today.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a big weight loss. How has your weight loss then been received by the other people at your Slimming World group? Because there's a lot of judgment and a lot of guilt, isn't there, about weight and weight loss? I mean, honestly, how was it received?
That's a really interesting question, and I think what I would say is that the slimming groups are great because they are about advice, they are about support, they are about community, and they are about celebrating those people who are losing. So things like Slimmer of the Week, Slimmer of the Month, it's all about getting your rewards and your stickers and celebrating it and sharing your experience. But there is an element of perhaps a bit of jealousy, perhaps everyone wants to be there, and so it is a complex one as well. But certainly my journey would not have been half what it is without the support of the group, without going out there every week. But some of them and engaging with it.
But honestly, you felt a bit of jealousy, a little bit of hostility from some people.
Now I'm engaged. No. I mean, it's not as overt as that. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it is generally a supportive environment. I can share some anecdotes. Quite recently, I'm still going, and I've started kind of helping to volunteer to help run the group as kind of a way of staying useful and relevant. And a new member kind of came and said, "Well, you don't need to lose weight." Looking at me, and I was like, and I had to kind of say, "Well, actually, yes, just I've lost 6 stone. I'm maintaining a healthy weight now, and that doesn't mean I don't belong here just because I'm now visibly very different." And then there was another point where I kind of really, I think it was about the point where I'd lost 4.5 stone, where people started kind of telling me to stop, as it were. It's like, oh, wait, look, you've done it now. You don't need to lose anymore. But my target has been based on medical stuff, on BMI as a target, and so I had to kind of really set a boundary with people and say, well, actually, no, my target is personal to me, and my journey is not over. And in fact, I'd argue that the journey is never over, because that's the mistake I made 10 years ago. I slimmed down for my wedding, then stopped going to Slimming World, stopped, quote unquote, caring about my weight, and ended up in a much worse situation.
Linda, you can understand that people will be envious because, for one thing, these weight loss drugs are really expensive, and not everyone will be able to afford to have them, will they? And then if you couple that with the fact that there is this judgment, isn't there, that you ought to be able to lose weight with willpower alone.
First of all, massive well done to Nick for losing his weight. That is a massive amount to lose. Really well done there. That's so good. In our groups, there is definitely a little bit of a taboo around the slimming injection, and I'm trying to get away from that because we do not judge anybody. And in our groups, we have some members that tell us in confidence that they're taking the jab because they don't feel that confident enough to say in the group that they're taking it, because there is that taboo element that as if it's cheating. I don't think it is. I think if you've got a tool that's going to help you lose weight and change your obesity and all the risks associated with obesity, go for it.
It's such a change, though, isn't it, Linda? What a change.
I know, but we've got to go ahead with the times. This slim injection is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. So we have to keep up with that and support the members that are having it. And I just hope that the taboo does go. And I do think it's going to take time where it does, because now we do have some members that talk about it openly in the group. But there's always, it's when somebody's done it, they'll say, well, I've been taking it out. So I've been taking it out for 3 months. And it's becoming more and more popular. People are opening up. But there's still quite a lot of members that are telling me in confidence and they don't want to divulge it. And I hope that goes away because it's only helping people's lives. It's only a positive, isn't it?
Just very briefly, Linda, yes or no, do you think all of these slimming clubs will survive? They can't, can they?
Well, I hope mine does. I'm going to say yes, mine's going to. Definitely, it's the best out there.
Well, good luck to you. We'll have to,
Thank you.
Yeah, like so many of these stories, come back to it, won't we? That was Linda Ledbetter from B. Wade and Nick van der Weyer. Thank you both for that. How easy is it to travel by bus where you live? Well, according to the think tank Commonwealth, the distances that buses cover has reduced by at least 40% in 15 English local authorities since 2019. It means that whole routes have been cut and shortened and services have been reduced. It's a particular problem in rural counties, and the worst place is Shropshire. Buses are important for all kinds of reasons, for getting you to work, to medical appointments, out shopping, to see your friends. The Confederation of Passenger Transport says buses are the key to healthy local economies in rural areas. We asked 3 people in different parts of England to tell us about their local bus services.
Hello, I'm Leslie from Sittingbourne in Kent. I live on a 1960s estate and we have a big new development next to us, so there are a lot of people in this area. The buses we used to come through both of the estates, and some went on to some of the local villages. They were all axed by Kent County Council after COVID, so basically we don't have a bus service. The local hospital is also in my area, so that doesn't have a bus service either. It does impact me quite a lot. I mean, I have a car, I drive, but I do like to use public transport as an ethical thing, really. I think we should all be using more public transport. I do remember the people who were on the buses that I used to use, and many of them have to use those buses because they need to. There were 2 particular cases involving disabled adults and their carers, and the bus was a lifeline for them, sort of socially and basically logistically as well. I don't think you have to have loads of buses, and I don't think you have to have the big buses, but I would have thought there could have been some sort of service provided, perhaps 2 or 3 times in and 2 or 3 times out in a day, and people could use those.
This is Philip Adams from Ludlow in Shropshire, where we've had a 60% reduction in bus travel over the last 5 or 6 years. Because of this, we've looked at the situation via our sustainable transport group and surveyed bus users to ask them to describe their experiences. Things like timetables, reliability, punctuality, bus stops, route frequency. Ludlow people had 3 anxieties about lack of proper bus services. Getting to medical appointments was one, getting to shops was another, and poor social life was the third. That was a surprise. 65% of people reported all 3 were a problem. The conclusion we came to is there's no doubt that without decent bus services, you get loneliness and social exclusion. The bus timetabling is hard to follow. I mean, it's actually caused 186-year-old to walk. There are no evening buses after 6 and no Sunday buses. Taxis are hard to get. When you weigh all this up, it's not a good position for a hospitality town with a quite mature population. So the impact is quite severe.
This is Toby. I'm from the Black Horse in Grassington, North Yorkshire. It's a 15-room hotel with a pub and restaurant. So the buses in our area do leave quite a lot to be desired. Thankfully, we do have a service that runs 7 days a week. Unfortunately, this service stops around 5 or 6 p.m. on an evening. Now, being within the hospitality business, some of our busiest times are evenings. So we not only have the trade that's affected by not being able to reach us on public transport at those times, but the staff members which we require in order to be able to, produce the meals, serve our customers. A lot of those people who fill those jobs tend to be from a younger generation, and they don't necessarily have access to their own transport. So trying to get them to us from the other nearest towns is really difficult without those evening services provided. The local businesses and the local economy all have the same issues. There are a lot of hospitality businesses within the village because the village is heavily tourist-based. We do have our amazing locals, but obviously there are a lot of hotels, a lot of restaurants and bars, and they all struggle to be able to find staffing from within such a small village. It obviously also impacts anyone who wants to come to us from the local towns on an evening to maybe have a nice meal, a few drinks. They're not able to do that. Obviously, the solution to this is being able to provide a bus service on an evening. However, we have been asking for this for years, as have many other local businesses, and unfortunately, it just hasn't happened, but it really would be such a good thing for the community, for the local businesses, and also for the people from the nearby towns who are looking for work, because there tends to be a lot of work going within our village that people could easily fill from the other surrounding towns if they could just get to us.
So that's a little snapshot from Grassington, Ludlow and Sittingbourne. Some listeners have been in touch. An anonymous text from Suffolk. My nearest bus stop is 4 miles away with 1 service in each direction a day. 800 people live in my village. There is a community bus, which is great for older people, but it doesn't run at times you would need to get to work or school. Angie Killam in East Riding of Yorkshire says, we have only 1 small bus, and that that only runs once a day and only on Wednesday and Friday. We would love a daily bus service. I live in Hope. Kieran Drain in the Scottish Borders. Public transport here can be a nightmare. We lost our direct bus to Edinburgh in lockdown. We never got it back. It took 2 hours, but it was reliable. Its replacement takes 3 hours. Here's another one just come in, but on a positive note, Rob Needham. We're very lucky here in Rattray in South Devon, very rural, but there is a bus service that links us with Paynton and Plymouth via Totnes. The service isn't subsidised because it's very popular and it runs every half an hour. Sylvia Barrett is from the Campaign for Better Transport. Sylvia, obviously this is a subject of a lot of frustration and passion, particularly in rural areas. Why is there this big divide when it comes to bus services in rural and urban places?
Yes, absolutely. I really recognise all these experiences that people just relate. Our supporters come and tell us the same thing every day. And unfortunately, there's a little bit of that dichotomy when it comes to local bus provision between our cities and more rural areas. The basic fact is that in rural areas, people tend to have private cars to a much greater extent. And that means that there's a smaller market. There's lower demand for bus services, unfortunately, which makes commercial services less viable. And that's where greater levels of investment are needed. But we do make the case that this investment really needs to be provided. We need to treat buses as the essential public services that they are.
It seems incredible, doesn't it, that you can be left without a bus service at all, or with one that finishes after 5 o'clock. Is it just all part of the same problem, just not enough demand?
Well, no, I think that's completely unviable, basically, for people who live in those places. We do believe that no community should be completely cut off or left with unreasonable services like that. So what we're arguing for is for the government to set a standard level of service that people should be able to expect in different types of areas. So we're not saying that villages need to have the same level of provision as cities, but there needs to be at least a minimum service that people should be able to rely on and get to the places where they need to go within a reasonable time frame.
We asked the councils that were mentioned by those 3 people for responses, and we had response from Shropshire County Council. It just said any improvements would depend on getting enough money from the government, and unfortunately the funding's been inadequate to make significant improvements to the local bus network. And similar from Kent County Council. Now, the government told us that it is spending more than £1 billion in this financial year alone to try and improve bus services. £1 billion sounds like a lot, but in context, is it a lot?
It's not enough. So this is, the highest level of investment in buses we have seen for a number of years. In 2021, the government published a really ambitious national bus strategy to secure those improvements in local bus services. But because of the impact of the COVID pandemic, the funding wasn't sufficient. So they had to pick winners, and losers effectively. So it was competitive funding. Now we have this move to a needs-based allocation, but the places that tended to lose out, which tended to be rural areas or small authorities, really have a long time to go until they're able to catch up, unless we see a big uplift in how the funding is allocated. So compared to roads, for example, buses provide a much greater social value and return on investment. And that's the argument we're making, that it needs to be an essential public service and funded as such.
Briefly, if you would, you said that there have been improvements. Some places bid for money and they got it. Where are these success stories?
There are success stories. So, for example, it tends to be in cities. Portsmouth, for example, is one of the places that received relatively high allocation per resident, per capita. And they have really successfully implemented many improvements in bus service frequency, in reach of services, in bus reliability. As a result of that, they have had a 40% increase in bus use over the last 2 years. So where there are good levels of investment and improvements are made, that really works. It manages to bring people out of cars, to increase the level of bus use for the benefit of the local economy, of air quality, the environment, and for the people that use them. It really increases social interaction.
Sylvia Barrett from the Campaign for Better Transport. Thank you. If you are learning to drive, you'll know how hard it can be to book a driving test in the UK at the moment. The waiting lists are longer than 6 months in some places. And criminals are using it as an opportunity to fleece learner drivers. According to TSB, fraud targeting learner drivers has more than doubled in the last year. It's being helped along by the many new companies that have sprung up, offering to find you a test for an additional fee. There are paid apps for it. There are agents that sell tests. People are also getting conned, though. They think they are using services that will give them a test when they're not. The fraud has been going on for a long time. We first reported on it in 2023 when our reporter Vian Siddiq spoke with Hafiz Ahmed from West London. Now, he had failed a driving test and he wanted to book another one quickly. He went on Facebook and he found a group selling test slots.
There are several groups made up on Facebook, so I joined several groups. And basically this group has screenshots of tests being booked, but they are basically fake screenshots to attract the customers. Then they had test dates posted of the areas like Pinner, Southall, Morden, Isleworth. And suddenly I saw a date for Pinner, which I wanted the area. So I emailed that person saying I want to book this date at this time.
And at this point, it felt really legitimate? You didn't have any doubts in your mind?
No, at all, because I had no doubts, because I saw a lot of screenshots of the booking tests for other clients, and also messenger chats from other clients, tests being booked, that saying thanks. So when I saw all that, that attracted me. But it was a scam, basically. They charged me $170 for the actual test. And when I told them I want to book this time and this date, first I sent the funds to them. Then after the same time, they returned the same money back to my account. They were saying that on the messenger, payment hasn't gone through. I will send the money back to you, and can you resend it back again? About 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, they were saying payment has not gone through. Then I realized it's a scam. I had to email Facebook and report the incident. And the second day, I reported it to my bank. And within a miracle, the next day I received the funds in my account. After this incident, I spoke to my instructor, and my instructors contacted another school. And then they found me a date for May. And this time I passed.
So that's Hafiz Ahmed speaking to us in 2023. Richard Daniels is the head of fraud at TSB. Richard, hi and welcome. Thank you for coming on. So we spoke to Hafiz about this over 2 years ago now, and your data suggests it's only got worse since then.
Thanks for having me. Yes, it's sort of typical, unfortunately, what we see from how fraudsters work. They tend to capitalise on these sort of situations where people have a strong desire or they're desperate to get things like their test booked, and they do that, of course, for their own gain. We're seeing, at the moment, at least since last year, a doubling of the amount of fraud that come through on lessons and test-type scams.
So from what to what? Sorry, go on, you're going to say.
Yeah, it's gone up by about just over 200% in numbers, and the average loss is around £244, so slightly higher than the listener you spoke to last year. So we're seeing this increase, unfortunately, through banks, but it's largely driven from social media sites, and with the usual sites being mentioned of Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat. How
many cases are you seeing?
Many thousands, unfortunately.
Gosh.
So they're coming through at quite a rate. And now it's, again, in many cases, it's the fraudsters taking advantage of these sort of situations as they occur. They're very opportunistic when they want to be.
That thing that Hafiz Ahmed described, where he paid them and then they refunded the money to his account and then he paid them again. I mean, what's going on there?
Yeah, what they're trying to do is get double the amount, essentially. They're saying that I've not received the money. Often that'll be out of hours for the bank. So it's perhaps not able to check that money's gone through. And then they're seeking to get additional funds coming through at the same. So basically twice the amount for a single fraud.
Gosh, tell me what precautions then people should be taking.
Yeah, there's quite a few things people can do to help themselves. I mean, the first thing I'd say is often when you're making payments, it's better to do that through cards rather than bank transfer. And that's because you can, with cards, often claim some of those funds back. Messages often appear in the payment when you're making them from banks. So I'd definitely follow through on those messages and make sure that you're wary about payments as they go through, as they come through. But the big thing is be careful with social media sites. Often there's quite a lot of adverts and offers on social media sites that are scam related. So be very careful and try and verify the sellers or the services that are coming through.
So you're saying don't use a money transfer, use a card. But if you do use a money transfer, make sure that the name on the account matches the name you've been given, that all the details add up, because that is an extra security check that the banks are
Absolutely.
offering. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
Richard Daniels from TSB, thank you for that. Carly Brookfield is from the Driving Instructors Association. It's the UK's biggest professional body for driving instructors. Carly, what's happening with the waiting times for tests?
Well, sadly, Winifred, they're not going down. Since COVID ended and lockdown ended, we've actually seen an exponential rise in test waiting time. So around about October 2021, when the problem started, we were told by the DVSA that 14 weeks was an unacceptable amount of time to wait for a test, and they wanted to drive it down nearer 7 weeks. We're now several years on for that, and we're looking at, in over a third of test centres in the UK, a 24-week or more wait for a driving test. So in this scenario where we've got a lot of demand but not enough supply, we're starting to see some riskier behaviours and riskier things happening, like people being defrauded for fake driving tests or fake instruction even.
So are driving instructors seeing this, people they're teaching getting conned when they're trying to book their tests?
Yes, we are. We have seen members actually report this in as an issue, as well as people purporting to be driving instructors charging people for blocks of lessons as well that are not approved driving instructors, not supplying genuine lessons.
The DVSA says the problem is a shortage of examiners, that they are leaving faster than they can train them up. Why do you think that is?
There's a lot of pressure on driving examiners. The ones that are actually in the role, doing the role day in, day out, are being asked to supply an exponential number of tests and work very hard. Recruitment hasn't gone particularly well for the agency in terms of bringing new people into the industry. They have looked at certain measures like expediting the amount of time it takes to train an examiner, but they are actually seeing people falling out of that recruitment process, as well as losing the traditional examiner kind of work set that they've already got, because they're retiring. The average age of a driving examiner at DVSA is 54 years old. So there is a drive to bring in new talent, younger talent as well, and people that can actually take the workload that an examiner has at this moment in time.
When did you start being able to buy driving tests in bulk so that companies could spring up, and if you were willing to pay extra, they could help you jump the queue? When did that start?
Well, this really exploded after lockdown, when suddenly we were able to start driver training again and driver testing. So what's happened here is the much admittedly cleverer bots that are operated by these third-party booking sites, and I'm being honest here, they are cleverer than the systems that government agencies often have, were able to tap into the system and scoop up these tests in volumes. They're just much quicker. Every so many weeks, a new batch of tests is released to the system, and mum and dad and pupil and driving instructor are sat there from 6 a.m. desperately trying to get those new tests, and they can be 80,000 in the queue because, quite frankly, the bots have got in there and they're faster and deployed in bigger volume to scoop up those tests and sell them on, as well as the additional problem of people who haven't got tests at all and have no access to them selling fake test slots for up to 400% of their actual recommended retail price.
Have driving instructors always been able to block book tests?
They can book tests to a certain degree in volume, particularly the bigger driving schools, and within the bigger driving schools or in collectives of driving instructors working cooperatively, you can also swap tests. So if you have a finite number of tests and you've got pupils who are in more of a state of readiness to actually take their test than others who have test slots already booked, you can use the facility to swap tests around. So there's been a lot of consultation with the industry and DVSA as to how do we manage this flexibility in the system to make sure that we can actually supply to those who actually are ready to take their test sooner.
And have reputable driving instructors ever sold on tests to people who were just in a hurry, driving schools?
Not reputable ones. The reputable professional approved driving instructors will be playing by the rules, sticking to the rules. They will be trying to accommodate their own set of pupils, their own pool of pupils within their own driving school, as I said before, by the use of system swaps, where you can swap one driving test and one pupil's time over. But the non-reputable instructors, and I'm sad to say there are very, very few, but there are a few instructors who engage in selling tests on, those are the ones that are being closely monitored by DVSA, because that behaviour of selling tests on for inflated prices is considered not fit and proper behaviour. So if anybody sees an instructor offering slots or is defrauded by somebody who holds an instructor licence, well, first of all, check they are an approved instructor, which you can do on Find Your Instructor from DVSA service. But, if you have a concern about any of that, report that to DVSA themselves, because they take it very seriously in this context of overwhelming demand and people's not being able to genuinely get a slot in some cases. They take this selling of slots by nefarious operators very, very seriously, and they can act in some places criminally. And also, if it's a driving instructor that's found to do this, they can act to remove that driving instructor's professional licence.
And if you are sitting at home desperate to get a test, thinking of buying a test at an inflated price, you would just say don't do that.
Don't do it. It's your risk. You are risking your money doing that. And as I said, it could be up to 400% of the price of a normal driving test. And also don't risk buying block bookings of lessons as well, unless you truly know that that is an approved driving instructor who can take you for those driving lessons as well. And you're not going to lose your money both ends.
Carly Brookfield from the Driving Instructors Association. Thanks for coming on and telling us about that. More than 40% of people in the UK believe that their local high street is in decline. That is according to quite a big survey of 5,000 people. It was done for UK Hospitality. That's the trade association for the people who run pubs and clubs and cafes and restaurants and bars. Now, in the suburbs, people are more likely to think their shopping areas on the slide. Half of people in suburban areas reported that their local shopping centres felt worse now than a year ago. People who live in city centres are happier. Only a fifth think their high street is going down. Alex Schlagman is the co-founder of Save Our High Streets. It works with councils and developers to try and improve the quality of local high streets. And Tony Sophocles, sorry, I can't speak today, is from UK Hospitality. Tony, I'm sorry, I made a right mess of your name.
I'm quite used to it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that. Anyway,
no problem.
I did practice before I came in, it got me nowhere. So tell me, Tony, why do you think then that so many people think their high street's in decline?
Well, I think that there are several different elements to these perceptions, I think. But actually, if you go down many high streets, you will see shuttered shops. And that immediately gives this impression, doesn't it? And I think that obviously there was COVID when everything was shut, and that might have started people's sensitivity to these sort of things a bit more. But now that everything's open back and life is supposedly normal, you're still seeing shuttered shops. And I suppose local services are also, up against it in terms of funding. So it might be that there's street cleaning and things like that have gone downhill as well, depending on where you are.
Alex Schlagman, the survey asked people what they think. I mean, are they right in what they think? What do the figures suggest?
Well, just building on what Tony talked about as well, Winifred, empty space is an eyesore for high streets, but it's a very visible representation of the challenge facing high streets, but also potentially one of its great opportunities. Because what we're starting to see is empty space being repopulated with a new generation of high street entrepreneurs with access to the space and support they need to be successful. And here at SaveTheHighStreet.org, as well as big initiatives announced by government over the last week, are aiming to address this head on.
The big initiative that you're mentioning, the big initiative, Alex, just for people who missed it, is that some more money is going to be shelled out, isn't it, in some rundown places?
Exactly, 339 communities. So this is at a local level with devolved powers and £5 billion of money to be spent. This is going to be split between the 339 different communities. They're going to receive between 1.5 million and 20 million each at that community level, as well as powers to take over empty properties, to seize control of empty properties, in some cases repurpose large empty spaces like department stores, as well as repopulate those smaller units so that they are effectively serving the needs of that high street. How do we get the right businesses in the right places doing the right things? And that's how we start to change the perception of high streets really fundamentally.
Tony Sophocles, post-pandemic, the city centres took a hammering, didn't they, because of working from home? And the suburban high streets did pretty well for the same reason. People working from home, would go out and get their latte from a local cafe. Is what people are noticing in your survey, do you think, a result of the return to the office that we're seeing now, where I guess some of that business has gone back to where it started?
I think that's got to be a factor in amongst this, but one of many, but probably prime among them, actually. But there are other things. In fact, just looping back to an earlier piece on today's show, you're talking about in terms of rural and suburban transport. If people can't get to those places to visit their pub or restaurant or anything like that, that also has an effect. But yeah, I think you're largely right. I mean, there's many reasons behind why hospitality has been suffering, but I think on high streets you can always point to the fact that it's the sort of inexorable way that business rates has worked against hospitality businesses, and that's on the government's agenda. But we could do with some action on that at the budget.
Tony, we spoke to the local data company. They are the people who count the spaces that are left on high streets. Now, what they say is that the average rate's 14%. It hasn't shifted very much for a few years now. They say what's happened is that retail parks are doing well, so people are choosing to shop where they'll find everything in one place. And some of the big retailers like M&S have basically followed the footfall. So people might not be happy with what's left locally. But the other thing they say is that even if you change business rates tomorrow, it wouldn't revive the high street tomorrow because businesses have so many other costs. Their leases, for one thing, they're sewn into them.
Well, that's certainly true. I wouldn't want to set any impression that business rates is the only challenge financially for businesses. I mean, the impact of the national insurance contributions for employers that came into play in April has brought in 774,000 employees in hospitality into applicability for employer contributions. That's been enormous. That's been hugely impactful. So yes, I will bang on about business rates. There are many other factors as well.
Alex, you do this work to try to improve high streets. As I was saying, vacancy rates are unchanged over the last few years, certainly. Is it the kind of businesses that people find they have? Is it that your Marks and Spencer's goes and instead you're left with something you don't like as much? Tell us what people want.
Yeah. So if we look at those vacancy rates, Winifred, we're seeing some of the large national chains shrink and in some cases even disappear from high streets. And so at that level, we're seeing a significant decline. But the rate at which smaller businesses start and rate in which smaller businesses churn or leave the high street remains relatively constant. So one of the great opportunities here is how do we increase the number of businesses who are starting and reduce the number of those small businesses that are failing? And that will bring the vacancy rate right down.
Okay.
Now, single town centre has a unique requirement. It's got a different catchment. Some town centres are very much just around serving that local community. Others are much more destinations.
Okay, we must leave it there. I'm sorry, we're out of time, but it's a subject we talk about a lot. Thanks so much for your insights today. That was Alex Schlagman from Save Our High Streets and Tony Sophocles from UK Hospitality. I just want to tell you about the phone-in tomorrow before I go. We want to talk about the jobs market, what that is like right now. We know graduate opportunities are at a low, said to be down a third, but there are vacancies in some places. Warehouses, cleaning companies say they're looking for staff. Please email us now and tell us what the job market is like in your experience, and also please leave us a contact number. Thank you for listening today.